Hey, I'm Andrew Hall, and this is Dead Hand Radio. My guests for this episode are UFO investigators Margie Kay, Bill Spicer, and Wayne Lawrence. This team, each very different backgrounds and experiences, have collaborated on a project to share some potentially groundbreaking techniques for capturing and analyzing evidence of UFOs. By combining their efforts and sharing their observations, they've produced a book called The Fast Movers: Evidence of High-Speed UFOs, UAPs, which is going to be the topic of our conversation tonight. Welcome to Dead Hand Radio, guys.
Yep.
Thank you, Andrew.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for being here. So we're going to start off with Margie because she's the one who contacted me, and I understand that she's the one that is responsible for pulling this project together, or at least reaching out to her co-authors and fellow investigators to bring this project to the public. Margie?
Okay, well, Andrew, the three of us came to some of the same conclusions from very different methods. And after I realized that had occurred, and I've known both of these gentlemen for about 10 years, I asked them to collaborate on this book with me. And what it is, it's called The Fast Movers: Evidence for High-Speed UFOs, UAPs. And it is what it says. It's about high-speed, fast-moving UFOs that people usually don't notice. But in the book, I explain, and we all explain how we each came to the same conclusions, how we discovered these things and began to, in my case, see them, and in their cases, capture them on film, and also learn how to see them. So we demonstrate this in the book, and we show anybody who reads it how they can see the fast-moving UFOs and also capture them on film. And for me, this started many, many years ago. As a psychic and a remote viewer, I am able to put myself in a very light trance state, and I noticed these fast-moving objects, and I decided to try to really concentrate on them and get them to slow down so that I could see them more easily. And I discovered that I could slow time down a little bit by about 2 or 3 seconds in order to get a better view of other things. And the first thing for me was these little white lights that were darting around trees, and they're called tree sprites. So I wanted to get a better look at them, asked them to slow down, and it worked. Well, one day, as I finished doing a conference in a town nearby, I headed home, and this was right after a really, really terrible deluge rainstorm. So I think the negative ions in the air had something to do with this, but I was seeing a lot of fast-moving UFOs of all different shapes and sizes, and as many as 30 at a time, and it really caught my attention. And I called a friend of mine, and I asked her to look at the skies to see if she could see anything, and she actually saw 3 at the same time. Even though she doesn't have some of the same psychic abilities that I do, she was able to see them because I pointed it out that they're there. And she drew some pictures, and the shapes were similar to what I saw. So I really started paying more attention to this and understanding that, and also as a UFO investigator for MUFON, I receive reports all the time, and we're getting some photos and some video from people who actually captured these things where they didn't see them with the naked eye, but it's in the video. So I started working with Wayne on this, and he is also with MUFON and an investigator, and he started just going through doing some video analysis and discovered that he could capture these in that manner. And so I'll let Wayne and Bill share their stories, how they found out about them.
Yeah. I can go first. How's that?
Yeah, that's great, Bill. Go ahead.
I actually, I had a near-death experience as a young man, and after that, I became a little bit more open or psychic, and could, experience some things that I wasn't quite sure what it was at the time. But over time, I started having these very lucid dreams, like I was aboard craft. And I'd actually, at the age of 15, had an encounter with a craft with other people there. Okay, so we actually went through a lost time experience. And then after that, starting in 2009, I started having these dreams where I was aboard craft. And they started showing me, these beings started showing me how to take pictures and video and filter, because that's the key to this, is this filtering along with meditation and consciousness. And that's how I began this. And I started writing a journal. And I could see these craft if I had my sunglasses on, polarized sunglasses, which I thought was an interesting, bit of, nobody else could see them, but I could see them. And it's kind of like what Margie said. You just kind of it's like time slows down a little bit when you're seeing this in the sky, and these things are moving around, and I could see it. And from there, I started taking the videos and pictures. And then that's when I think it was in 2010, I met Margie, because I actually contacted her and I said, there's something going on here. And then in 2014, I made a presentation at a UFO conference and put a book out that I have, and went from there. And I could go out on any clear day and see these. I mean, it's that easy to do. So I don't know if Wayne wants to do a little bit of talking, and then we could perhaps do the intro to the book video.
Yeah. I was first, my first sighting really that I knew was a UFO was May 1st in 2014. And that was the year that everything just kind of blew up in terms of this whole new world. And I started noticing things in the sky that I had always assumed was probably just a plane or something. And so I started taking images of videos, in fact, of lights at night that just didn't look right. And it didn't look like it was a plane because it didn't have the right green and white and red light. And so they were interesting, and I started seeing quite a lot of stuff. And when I would start to look at them frame by frame, it was amazing how they were morphing, just changing morphologically, 1/30th of a second to the next 1/30th of a second, or 1/60th of a second, and it was really crazy. But the very first time this happened to me, though, that I realized I needed to look at it frame by frame instead of just playing the video, was off to the left here. I've got a big screen, which I usually use for all my investigations. And when I was playing a video one night, all of a sudden I saw something. What in the heck was that? Because it went by so fast. And so that's where I got the idea, I better slow this down and go frame by frame. And by golly, I saw something shoot up, zigzag down at 45, then go at 90 degrees, just like that. And that's where the whole thing opened up for me. And I literally can take my camera, my video camera. I live near a lake, about half a mile from the lake edge, and although I can't see it, I know it's there. And that's where I've been seeing quite a lot. I mean, anytime I take a photo, whether it's just a still photo or usually videos, I have never once yet not found fast-moving UFOs in them. I keep thinking every time, is this going to be the random time where I won't see anything? And that has never occurred. I can go any time of day or night, and there are so many of them going up and down from this lake. And I've come to the conclusion that there must be a base or several bases underneath the lake, because they all kind of come and go to the same location.
So just to clarify real quick, Wayne, are you talking about you're shooting video and capturing these, or photos?
Yeah, both. I started off
Okay,
doing photos, but the videos, you get, in my case, my camera, I get 60 frames per second. So that's 60 images.
Yeah.
And multiply it times 20 seconds, you got a whole bunch of images.
Right.
And so that's why I'm able to capture them, because in maybe 30 seconds to a minute, but even 20 seconds, I'm going to catch stuff.
Cool. So I'm going to get to the excerpt of the book here in just a minute, but I want to give people a little bit better idea of each of you and your role within the UFO community. Is that okay?
Sure.
So starting
Sure.
with Margie, you're a UFO investigator, and you've been at this for a couple of decades or a few decades.
A few.
Assistant State Section Director of Missouri MUFON, over 500 investigations, and a member of MUFON's STAR team.
That's correct.
Okay. What is the STAR team? I'm not sure if everybody knows what that is.
Well, it is sort of an elevated field investigator status after you have done so many investigations, and your investigations are done in a timely manner and correctly, and have enough information in them. Then your state director can request that you're given the STAR team status. Okay. And we have a lot of STAR team members in our state, in Missouri.
And outside of or actually coinciding with the UFO investigations, you're also a psychic and a remote viewer. You've worked with law enforcement and helped them solve over 50 missing persons cases.
Oh, over 60 now.
60?
Missing persons, homicide, and large theft cases. Yes.
Very cool.
And I do that work at no charge. So if a private investigator or law enforcement, or if somebody is working or they're a relative and the law enforcement agency does not want to utilize a remote viewer, then I will work with the people directly. But I prefer not to do that because I prefer to stay emotionally detached from it. And that's difficult to do when you're talking to a family member, of a missing person.
Definitely.
So yeah. And when I do that work, I'm very accurate and successful. And I've determined that the reason is because of the emotion around it, and because that sort of permeates the air, if you will, and it leaves an imprint. And so it's easier for me to find a person, and sometimes I'll contact them on the other side and do like a medium would, and talk to the person who's deceased, and they'll lead me to where I need to go.
Wow.
But I also use it in a lot of other ways.
So, very, very fascinating. There's a ton of more information that I want to share with listeners, but you and I have a meeting scheduled for next Monday, so we'll talk a lot about all of that stuff next Monday.
Sure.
And Bill, I did a little bit of research on you, and you're an aircraft engineering consultant.
Correct.
Design and technical lead for an aviation company, and you have a degree in design. You're also a pilot and an amateur astronomer.
Correct. Yep. That's what I do. I work on aircraft and help engineer usually the insides, the interior of the aircraft, and work with pilots and our customers that we have, and put these aircraft together. And I've worked here at the aircraft capital of the world here in Wichita. So that's where I've been to multiple contractor, as different companies that are located here. And so I've done that. And I've also written a book, and that came out in 2010, which was my journal that I kept. as I started to document all of my experiences. And that's how Margie and I actually met, I believe, as I contacted her about my first book, and spoke to small groups here in Kansas City. I spoke in that area, and that's when Wayne and I actually met. It was in 2014 after I had given a presentation. So,
okay. I do want to ask you a little bit about the book and the process of writing that book, because there was some interesting discoveries that you made prior to writing the book, and then the book was a record of those discoveries. And that was the technique that you learned or discovered. And now you mentioned a little bit of that in your brief intro, but could you go into a little bit more detail on how you discovered the technique of capturing UFOs?
Okay. Well, this goes back to very lucid dreams. I had 3 dreams that took place. I was aboard a craft with very tall, 8-foot tall, white-robed, with light-emitting bodies. And we were in a very large structure. It had to have been at least 4 to 6 stories tall. And I was introduced to one of them that followed me around and showed me their craft and how it operated, number one. And number 2, then they showed me on a big screen. It looked like a big screen television on the wall. They showed me pictures looking back at the Earth, but on the edge, looking at the very edge of it, like a filter. And there's, you can see, you can kind of imagine that. But then they started to show me that you needed to, and I kept being told telepathically that you need to create a filter. You need to polarize the light coming through to a camera or to your eyes, and you will start to see our craft. And at first I laughed, and I remember waking up the 3rd time when they tried to show me this. I said, okay, I actually woke up and I started writing everything down. And within 24 hours, I'm at work, have a video camera with me because I was doing engineering. I was videotaping some things and on a test we were on, and I was outdoors, and I had my sunglasses with me, and they're polarized, and I started seeing this thing in the sky, and I asked other people standing there. There were 5 other engineers around, and they said, well, we can't see anything. And I said, well, here, try the glasses on. So they did, and I was like, wait a minute, this is what these beings showed me on the craft just 24 hours ago. And this was about 10 o'clock in the morning. And so I shot through the glasses at what I saw with my Polaroid lenses, basically. And sure enough, you could see what I had seen with my own eyes. And then I passed the glasses around, and everybody else could see it. And it wasn't moving. This object was in the sky, very bright, to the north of our position. And it was it was in May of 2009 when all of this started. And after that, I went home and started just writing everything down. And then I actually started spending my weekends sitting in my backyard, which faces north. And then I started seeing all of this stuff, and all these things moving around. Most of them were white, very bright white. I call them orbs. They look like orbs moving around, really fast, blinking in and out. And I could follow them. And sure enough, I got a lens and put over my camera and tried it out. And then eventually, my neighbor is across the street, and this thing just comes over the house. And I've got all the video of it, that I actually had another person standing there with me while we were videotaping. And my neighbor was an engineer at the time also. And he and I just both stood there because he had sunglasses on. And I videotaped that. In fact, I could even present that, what we recorded. And in it, there's at least 2 things. There's one that's moving around, and then another one comes down, a gray craft comes down shooting right through the video.
Okay. We'll get to the video a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
But your work gained the attention of an astrophysicist from Harvard. Is
Correct.
that correct?
Right.
And what did he say about the photos that you were capturing and the videos that you were capturing?
Well, he at first didn't quite understand it until I sent him some photos and a kind of an instruction sheet on what I had been doing, and I showed my camera setup and what I'd been doing, and also there's meditation involved in this because I kind of felt like there was a psychic connection, and I explained that to him. But I said beyond that, he agreed that these were holographic, quantum in nature. And I've studied some quantum, mechanics, physics in the past, so I was familiar with that aspect of it. That you can do the famous light, is it a wave or a particle slit, light experiment. And so I was familiar with it, and I brought that up. I also made some other observations which proved a theory that they had, and this physicist, he's an astrophysicist. I also know that he knew the late Dr. Mitchell that dealt with quantum events and how consciousness plays a part of this. And so they had already termed this as a quantum hologram, is that I was seeing was holographic, and very much so. I would say they appear to be that way, but I believe they can also come into our dimension, actual dimension, because I actually have video evidence that I believe shows that they can come in and out of our space-time.
And that was Dr. Rudy S. Child from
Shield.
Harvard?
Yeah.
Shield?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Rudy Shield. And he and I spoke for almost 3 hours on the phone. And out of that, and sharing a lot of information, and he actually agreed with everything I was showing, how the digital camera, I could explain it. I could explain how the polarization, now there's several different 3 levels of polarization, or 3 types. There's linear, circular, and elliptical. That's as the light comes through, and after it's gone through the polarizer, then what it looks like. Well, everything that I was shown on the craft talks about spin. Everything is spinning. Electrons, everything's spinning, turning, and revolving. So that's the activity. And without that circular part of it being filtered, which I believe the polarizer actually picks up the energy coming off the craft. Okay, it has a quantum signature to it, and what this does is it allows the light to be basically polarized in a circular, and it goes in a clockwise, a right hand clockwise direction. Okay, that's the direction the light is coming in. It'll go in a clockwise manner, which is right hand rule, which ironically enough is what electricity does when it goes through as electrons through your wires in your house or your building, wherever you are. That's how electricity travels. It's a right-hand rule. And I saw an orb come straight down out of the sky, straight at me, leveled off at about 200 feet over my head, and witnessed this. And then as it came back and went back up, it was going in a right-hand fashion, about its center of mass. Okay, I could see it actually spiral going back up, and what it had done coming down. And I told Rudy about this, and he says, well, that just proved a theory which tied everything together, which is dealing with this polarization, the circular aspect of it, and it's in a right-hand clockwise spin. Okay, the light is actually. And that's also how a lot of these craft travel. When you see them, if you look in the video, they're actually, and many that I've seen and have, they'll actually track, and they're actually circular. They're rotating as they go. And guess what? They're going in a right-hand fashion. So that tied that together with the science aspect of it that I've been asked, other times by Rudy, and actually spoke once with Edgar Mitchell and communicated with him a little bit. And then he brought in all of this and tied it together with the conscious aspects of it.
Okay. we'll get more into the science of that in a few minutes, but I'd like to talk to Wayne a little bit and find out a little bit more about him. You're a chief field investigator with Missouri MUFON. How long have you been doing that, Wayne?
Last summer I was named to that position, but I've been a field investigator for 6 or 7 years now. Actually, before that, I was even investigating my own sightings until I decided to become a MUFON investigator.
Okay, so you have had multiple sightings. You said that previously. Is that what led you to MUFON, or how did you come to work with MUFON?
Actually, I think I saw on TV one night back around 2012, 2013. I saw it was a show on UFOs, and they were interviewing MUFON personnel. Like I forget what show it was. So I would watch that for a while every time it came on, and then I found out that there was an organization that you could join, and so I did, and I started getting the monthly magazine, and boy, I was just happy as a lark, because I'd been wondering about this all my life. Then I found out, oh, they even have meetings. So that's when I started going to the local monthly meetings. And once I was kind of awakened to the whole thing in 2014, I started getting, oh, well, it was just because I was aware. And I would look outside the window in our living room and just, well, I would see things. I've seen meteors that didn't behave like meteors. And in fact, you're not supposed to see a meteor this just before it hits a lake. Meteors burn up about 12 to 20 miles up in the atmosphere before, and so it's very rare that anything ever strikes the Earth. But here it was just a small thing, and it was green, green light. But anyway, I see all kinds of stuff, and when I realized I could just even randomly take videos, that's when I really started getting a lot of accumulated images and so on, sightings. I've reported 37, 37 of my own sightings, but because they're so similar, I've kind of really slowed that down. And plus, I now have the whole state of Missouri to be taken care of. So, and sending out cases to our various field investigators and helping with the video analysis for various ones that come and ask for some help.
And you also speak 5 languages, which is incredible. And was that your topic of study when you were in was it seminary?
Well, no. My bachelor's degree is in biology, and
okay.
So I got a chemistry minor and a biology degree. But I also took. I grew up in French Polynesia, and so I learned French and Tahitian and English right there. And I continued taking French when we came back to the U.S. And so that I also got a minor in French. That was at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. And then later on, I went to seminary, and that's just a whole different set of work in translations. And I picked up Spanish and Creole just by visiting other countries very frequently. And so, and I'm a little dangerous in Russian and German, but I would not say I'm fluent at all.
Yeah, speaking multiple languages it seems to me that it activates different parts of your brain when you're talking in a different language. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, basically, when you learn English or any mother tongue, that's where the center is in those parts of your brain that store that, and the other languages go to the same place too. You just, I suppose, compartmentalize them. I'm not sure how that exactly works, but it does have a tendency, though, to keep you. I've heard it said that knowing other languages really increases your ability to understand other perspectives and to understand new information.
Because their languages are culturally based, so to
Right.
understand the language fluently, you have to understand the culture, which does give you a completely different perspective on how people see the world. That's amazing. So the translation work you do is for it says global denomination.
Yeah. Well, I'm retired now, so I don't do it anymore.
Okay. Is that religious based?
Yeah.
Okay, and we won't get into too much of that, but that does, being that you come from the world of religion, does give you also a different perspective on the UFO topic. And if you don't mind, later on, I got some questions that I'd like to hit you with about the implications between UFOs and religion.
In fact, I wrote a paper on that.
Oh, did you? I would love to read that. Is that available somewhere?
I can send it to you, sure.
Sure.
And Wayne is also, I might mention, quite proficient at mathematics, and we utilize his skills quite often.
Which is another language.
In fact, they're in the book. There's some formulas in the book.
Yeah, very, very cool. Very interesting. So each of you have unique and very experienced perspective on the UFO topic, and I can see how the collaboration would become successful and result in this book. So so before I get into the questions about the book, let me just quickly read this excerpt. In this collaboration, now, first of all, the name of the book is The Fast Movers, Evidence of High-Speed UFOs, UAPs. In this collaborative effort, 3 investigators share their experiences and opinions, along with photographs of multiple high-speed UFOs that Kay coined the fast movers. These objects are normally not seen by the naked eye, but can be captured on film. The reader will learn techniques for not only seeing these objects using quantum telepathy, but capturing them on video and still photos. See photos taken by others, including NASA. The conclusion is clear. We are definitely not alone. I think, just a comment on that, I think that more and more, it's becoming more and more apparent every day that conclusion is absolutely correct. I think anybody today that doesn't understand that these sightings, that these craft, that these phenomena are a real thing, they're just not paying attention, right? So, Margie, can this book be considered a guide, a technical guide, or a workbook for somebody who's interested in conducting their own research, capturing this video and photo evidence?
Yes, it could be considered to be a guide, because we do explain. As for my part, I give an introduction to remote viewing these objects and being able to see them with the naked eye. That would not probably give a person enough information for them to do this successfully all the time. And if they have trouble doing it, I do teach a remote viewing course that's specifically for people who want to view UFOs. And I have a separate workbook I wrote for that. But after they have read this book, they will see the techniques for photographing and video And so anybody should be able to successfully do that. And I think that, if they follow some of the instructions, as far as I'm concerned, for my techniques, meditation is the key to the whole thing. And people who meditate all the time or on a regular basis, or if they do things like yoga or take walks in nature a lot or do something repetitive that puts them into an altered state, those people will probably have an easier time, and it'll just be easier for them to see these objects. And the key also is just simply looking for them. If you are made aware that they're there and you just start looking up day or night, I can see them day or night, but in this case, I would say daytime. It's easier to see. And for me, it's easier to see them at dusk. And I'm never up when the sun is up, so I would imagine it could be done then too. But at dusk, when there's just a little bit of twilight, they're fairly easy to see. And it's just a matter of taking the time to relax and be calm and look. But then, and once you start to see these, you realize they're there, and you want to get video of them just to show someone else for proof, because you can't really prove anything with your mind. You've got to have the hard evidence. And that's where Bill and Wayne come in with the hard evidence. And believe me, I am not patient enough to sit outside all the time with a video camera. And I need to train myself to do that, because I would really like to get some of my own video. And actually I have got some, and I've sent it to Wayne, and he evaluated it, and he, found things in there. So I do it, but not as often as these guys do.
Are these things you're seeing with your eyes, or are you seeing them with your mind?
With my eyes.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
Now there's a whole other world there with remote viewing with your mind. And that gets into a lot more detail, and you can actually go on the craft and see and look in the craft and communicate with the beings and have telepathic communication with the craft and the beings. And that's another thing too. You can send out a telepathic message for the craft to appear or come in closer, and they will. And it's amazing. Sometimes you'll see, especially at night when it's dark, you might zone in on what you think is a star or a planet, and just send a message out that you would like to have any benevolent ETs or non-human entities that are in the neighborhood to come forward to show themselves to you, or just kind of demonstrate something. And then all of a sudden, this star that's been sitting there all night will just take off and move. And you know they heard you. They got that telepathic message. And that's what quantum telepathy is all about. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that does sound like an interesting thing to practice. Bill, going back to your conversation with Dr. Rudy, and his theory of how these things, or how your evidence proved the way that these things operate. Can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Okay. In our conversation, and you get into the physics of this, and if you look at the craft themselves, they actually use it deals with a propulsion system, because we even discussed that. And believe it or not, we show it in the book. There's a U.S. patent for the description for this, which fits in exactly to what I was shown on board the craft. And whoever I was being led around with understood my questions, because I kept asking questions during my dreams. How does this work? And so they basically told me, well, everything's spinning, and it's called, and I brought this up, it's called inflationary vacuum state propulsion. Inflationary vacuum state propulsion. That's what kept going over and over. And sure enough, there's a patent for it, that whoever illustrated it perfectly. because it also ties in with what I have seen in my photos on the surface of the craft and how all that fits together and how it operates. And I explained this to Rudy, and he must have gone and talked to some other people. I don't know who he shared it with, but when he came back, he said, well, this is starting to make sense. And the quantum aspect of it, the quantum mechanics or the physics part of it, is that I even got into what we call non-locality, where you can be, they can demonstrate this now. You can do the experiment. You can have electrons a mile apart, 2 miles apart, and they're complete images, identical, and they'll behave the same way. They've been able to do this. I know this even at MIT. You can read up on it. And I explained this to him, and I said, well, you realize with your thought, you can be out of body, because he understood what I was talking about in meditation and being able to remote view, which I have taken Margie's class, and I learned quite a bit and was able to do quite well in it. And I've actually reversed, I call it reverse. I've gone back on the craft now. And I've actually explained that I was already doing that, where I could step out of my body and do that. And in fact, I even had an engagement with one of the orbs, and I actually stepped out of my body. And I explained all this to Rudy, and he wasn't surprised, because other people had done the same thing that he had communicated with in his years of researching UFOs. And the other thing is scale, the size of things. It doesn't mean anything. Things can be very, very small and miniature, but very real, and yet they can be huge. Okay, scale doesn't seem to fit into this very. That's why a lot of the UFOs they look like orbs will show up quite small, but they can also, if they project themselves, because they're being projected. A lot of this, it's energy. Everything's energy, and it's spinning, and that's kind of where we left it. And the holographic aspect is that it's a projection of energy. So it's like a hologram, 3D hologram is some of it. But yet these craft can actually come in and materialize and work and operate within our space. And this also gets into string theory, quantum mechanics and string theory, where we know in string theory you can have up to 6 different dimensions present that they know mathematically, 6 dimensions that can be mathematically described. And then you mix in space and time moving along, okay? And then you have the conscious aspect of it. And that is the whole thing that ties it together, is the consciousness, conscious state. And that's what he had me focus on, and I agreed with him that if it wasn't for the consciousness, you'd never see any of it. You wouldn't be aware of it. You wouldn't sense it.
I could talk to you about the quantum mechanics and that kind of stuff, but I really don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole.
Right.
Because that could lead to a lot of different questions.
Of different.
You have a video of, or is it photos of some of the evidence that you've captured?
Yes.
That you wanted to share. Do you want to go ahead and share that right now real quick?
Well, we can do that, and it's the lead into our book that we wrote. So let me get that going.
Okay. So now these photos, this is a photo that you captured here?
These are photos, yes, that I've taken pictures of.
So earlier, one of the listeners asked, is it possible that these could be insects?
No. I've had that asked before. They don't even resemble insects. And I've got really, really good pictures of some of them that there's no way they could be insects moving around.
And you said that your camera shoots 60 frames a second. Or
yeah,
60,
yes,
60
in the
FPS.
video.
That's super high definition, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Is that a DSLR camera that you're using?
Yes, I have a DSLR. I use it's a made by Kodak, and I can even do this with my cell phone. Okay. I can show you a few pictures here if you want me to move a slide or two over, and I'll show you some of the photos.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'm going to go through a few of the pictures here. Let me get past this, and I'm going to just go ahead and write in. Here's some of the photos I took back in June 21st, 2009. Two of these craft were flying in tandem, in formation, and I could see them with my sunglasses on. This was facing north. Each of these I estimate are about the size of a 747 jet, and they were moving very, very fast in the skies, and then they split apart. I even saw them do that. And then here's an object on the same day. Later in the day, this appeared in the sky after the whole sky filled up with orbs that were released out of a big canister, silver canister looking craft. And then this craft that looks like it has an appendage hanging off of it was moving around so fast, and it was actually picking up orbs, these white orbs.
Hold it right there for just a sec.
Uh-huh.
That looks like the backpack man that the several pilots have reported.
I've heard of that. This was bright white and kind of had a orange, a little bit of orange flare to it also. And I happened to get it when it stopped once, but I had it on video. But this is from one of the stills. But this thing came and broke off of a larger craft that was a rectangular shape, and it was one of the three segments, and it just broke off. And then this thing went flying around and picked up all the orbs. After they'd spent almost 2 hours, basically, I use the word they were fighting, but they were engaging each other. And I don't know what that meant, but I was intrigued by it. And it lasted about 2 hours, the whole thing. But I can get you some more that definitely don't look like bugs.
Yeah, if I was seeing objects like this in the sky, I'd be shooting sky pictures all day long.
Well, when it gets clear outside, I did for about 2 years. Believe it or not, anytime I was outdoors, I had my camera with me. And a lot of times after that, I started getting precognition, and I knew when to go outside. And that was the part when I would start the meditation and everything. I would begin to do that, but I would also be kind of forewarned or had a thought that I need to go outside and take pictures. They're out there right now. They're going to show me something.
I've heard that before from other experiencers, that they get some kind of a message that it's time to go outside. They go outside and they see something.
Correct.
Yes, that happens a lot.
Yep. And that's what I get
as well.
Yep. It's just one of the key things. And Dr. Rudy Shield brought that up. He said, well, you're doing what other people have reported to me. And I said, well, this is how I get it. I just know when to go out. Later, I guess it was around November 26th of 2009, in the late evening there, the sun was going down. And I saw these 4 objects out there just hovering in the sky. They had completely stopped. And then I zoomed in on one of them, and there's a little being inside it. Okay, he's moving around. I got one good picture of him, and then they all just disappeared. Literally, they vanished after I got the picture. This little thing's in there moving around. Well, I'd already been shown one of these on the craft. The beings that I've been dealing with, the tall, white-robed or energy beings, they had these little guys doing whatever they wanted. They told them what to do, basically. So that's one of the kind of the first time after I saw this, I said, okay, that tied it back to the craft and my lucid dreams, because this is the kind of creature I saw, okay, or being.
Let me just get some input from Wayne on that last photo. Can you bring up that
Okay,
last
go
photo
back to
you were looking at? Yeah.
that one.
No, the
Oh,
circular one.
the gray, that one. Yep.
Yes, this one here.
Okay.
So, Wayne, I've seen photos like this, and I'm wondering if maybe you have too. But these kind of balloon-looking objects. I've only seen photos of these, but there's all these balloons in the air right now. So, what is the possibility of this being one of those balloons?
Well, there's always a possibility. I have a program called Flight Radar, in which I can actually go and see what's there at any given time, up to a year back. And so I have actually found loon balloons, although they have discontinued that now as of about a month and a half ago. That program's no longer viable. But there are other balloon programs. They tend to launch them on the East Coast. And if you ever watch the weather, you notice how the weather always goes from left to right, from west towards the east. So balloons cannot come against the weather. So now, if they're launched locally or west of us, then there's a possibility that some could be. But that's always when we do scientific analysis of our MUFON cases. We're trying to say, okay, what else could this be? What are its characteristics? And I use quite a lot of different software programs to deblur, to crisp up, to enlarge the pixels, to enhance them, and to see what's really going on. And also when you measure, if you have just enough information, you can calculate the size, distance, altitude, speed of travel. But circumstances have to be just right. You have to have enough pieces of information to be able to do some of that. So that also helps to finalize something. If something's going at 14,000 miles an hour, that's probably not a balloon.
Right. Very good point.
Yeah, these actually moved into place. This being was looking back at the other three. I'll go back one. The one that's circled, that's the one that had the guy in it. This is taken at like a normal, I didn't even have it zoomed. This is just normal depth of field, okay? I didn't have any zoom or anything. And I was, you could see over the edge of my house. And they were out there. And then I zoomed in, and that's when I saw this. And I could actually see this little guy or whatever it is moving around. There was something in there moving around. And then about the time I got the picture, then all of a sudden all four of them just disappeared, vanished right before my eyes. And then that was it. And I went in and started looking back at the camera because I couldn't believe what I saw. And it went from there. I can go through a few more here and actually get to some things that look like disc and some really fantastic looking craft if you want to see them.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. This is the cameras I've used in the past. I still use this one, the DC-420. Here's my Kodak Pix Pro. And then I have an old 5C iPhone, and I get photos with it. In fact, I've been using it lately. As I said, you prepare mentally before you go out and view, 5 to 10 minutes. I go into a light meditation and just close my eyes and visualize. And then out in this field, and we call it it's a quantum conscious field. And that's dealing with the quantum physics aspects of it. But these craft are really what we call transmedium. They're between natural and supernatural worlds, we believe. And here's some of the photos I've taken just last year, last summer. These were taken. You can see my house. This was taken. The bigger one was taken with my cell phone, and then I've also taken with another camera, the other craft, where you can see the appendages even on top. And that craft the one on the lower left, I actually have remote viewed inside it. I did that last August and surprised the heck out of the beings that were in there, and they were the beings that I've been in communication with since this all began.
Hold up right there.
Mm-hmm.
I only bring this up because I know some people who study photographs really rigorously. The big photo you have on the right,
Right.
to me, that looks like a lens flare.
Well, I've been asked that also.
Okay.
And this is when they really light up, and I've actually got some other pictures of the craft and what it looks like when they're not energized. And the one on the lower left, to the left, that's when it's unenergized. I'll go on. I'll take another one. And
Okay,
here's
yeah.
another deal that I took last September.
Bill,
This was with my cell
you
phone.
might explain about lens flares, how they have to be a certain shape.
Yeah, the lens flares usually, because of the way the aperture works, you're going to see, like, if you go straight up into the picture, there's a little ball. They'll show up as little balls. They won't be elliptical like this.
Okay.
Okay, and we explain that in the book also. And this is when the craft, I asked it to take down its energy field a little bit, and I grabbed a picture of it. And you could still see the energy coming off the top of it because they have these panels. I call them Tesla coils. They're field emitters, and that's where all the energy, and it looks like it's spinning in many times. You'll look at it. And here's a better close-up of it that I've got. I wish I could never get it quite clear enough. That's as clear as I could get it. I use my cell phone.
That doesn't look like a lens flare.
No, this I turn it to black and white so you can see more depth to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can see things. And then I turned it to negative. And then you can start to see shape of it. And then a couple of weeks later, it started another one showed up, and it actually has quite a bit of texture on it. If I can zoom, I think here, you can see what it looks like. It's starting to look like it's got texture to it.
Strange.
And the next slide, it'll show it when it de-energized. When I asked it to de-energize. Oh, sorry, it's that one. I'm sorry, it's this one. I actually mentally asked them to de-energize the craft. Then you can start to see the structure. And it's actually made up of multiple little structures, all stuck together.
Strange.
And the sun's not really in a way that it could. I didn't even get a lens flare or anything with that. This is just looking with the camera, with my cell phone camera, and a lens that I have from an old pair of polarized sunglasses. I just hold it over the lens. And then this is some more I've gotten the same kind of craft. This is showing how they transition. And a lot of them, and then in this one, you can actually see a jet airplane in the back making a vapor trail. That was in the picture also. Now, this one here, that's not a lens flare either. And I zoomed in using my cell phone camera, and that's the craft I got, was that shape. And you can see, and sometimes what's weird is the foreground, it goes away, or the background goes away, and it'll just look like a clouded image. Like this is a shape of my chimney on my house. And I zoomed in with my cell phone, just did a quick zoom as much as it would. And this came out in the picture. And it looks a whole lot like a photo that some of the NASA pictures that were distributed. that they took when they were circling the moon on Apollo 11. Or 12, I'm sorry, Apollo 12. And then I just took this a couple of weeks ago, sitting, and granted, I have to ask him to slow down, okay? Actually, literally stop and run this thing. And that's not a lens flare. And
that's
I wish
weird
you know, and again,
it looks like some portals or something in there.
And the background with yeah. Well, actually, those I believe are the field emitters. It deals with the propulsion system on the outside of the skin. Okay. And then it changed into this. I moved into my yard a little bit in a different position, and you can start to see in the bigger picture before I cropped it. You can actually see an image reflected of my cell phone camera if you look at it, and a little bit of a lens flare at the top. But then this thing appeared, and it's another ship. It's not even the same craft. And I did get telepathic messages because I raised some questions earlier in the day, and I got the answers I wanted to know about. It's just kind of an interesting thing how that they do this. They'll show up after I put out a message that I'd like to have some answers to some questions of mine, and then I ended up getting the answers within minutes after I took the picture. And then in 2018, I did the same experiment. I was flying off of out of Burbank, and we were just out over the Pacific after we took off, and I could see with my sunglasses on this shape. Excuse me. Let me go back one. There we go. I could see this blob or gray disc or something out there following our jet, and it wasn't on the window, and it just appeared, and I could see it with my sunglasses on. So I took a picture using my iPhone and shot it through my glasses. And you even do a reverse, and it's still there. You do a reverse image, and I zoomed up. Now, there was a reflection of my seat, the person sitting in the seat by me. He had his cell phone there, but this was independent of that. In fact, he could even see it after I pointed it out. He put on my sunglasses, and he could see it. And that's I darkened it down a little bit, got rid of and we were, this thing was I estimate about 1,000 feet from us off our right wingtip. It followed us for about 2 or 3 minutes. And here, I'm going to go back one. And we were talking earlier about perhaps dimensional or portals. And we talk about this in the book. And I actually have this on video. A donut, they call them donut holes. Other people, like Rudy Shield, knew about this. And the donut holes will open up in space-time, they believe. And I've actually caught 2 craft coming in, coupled together. And then it just disappears, and it's in the video. And I have a shortened video I could show you right now, and I'll show them at the very end. But you'll see another craft just move through the photo, and then there it is. See how it just flashed in?
Yes.
And there's actually 2, the 2 together. But you see that one? This is how they move. But they're moving actually very fast because I slowed this down. This is like 1/8 speed. And the next one that's most interesting is this one. And this is just a still of it. And I've enlarged it. And then, being an engineer that I am, I couldn't resist trying to draw this up in a 3 view. Top view, front view, and a right side view. This is very similar to the other craft I've been in, that I've been shown around in, and how they operate, how it works. And they actually have to be coupled to this larger surface, which is not where they live. Basically, they're in the domed section of it. This it looks like a hockey puck. And as I've said, I invite people. This is just for my own presentations I've done in the past, and it follows what's in the book. This is some of the other things that I saw last year in the summer. The two larger, they look like big orbs. Those always show up in a lot of, I mean, I'll be out there, whoever or whatever they are that's in it seems to know who I am, and they always show up.
So there was a listener question, and I think it was related to the photo you took from the plane,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the estimated altitude.
Yep.
When you took that photo.
Okay. It was actually, okay, we had taken off, so we're probably at about 10,000 feet in the air already, because we were heading north. We're out over the Pacific. We had just taken off out of Burbank, and it was a low cloud deck that morning. And the mountains in the background are where Pasadena, California is, and Hollywood. Okay, it kind of gives you an idea. So they had us take off. We went out that far, and then we're heading back towards the northeast, towards Vegas, Las Vegas, Nevada. And we're in a business jet when we're doing this, so we're not in a commercial airliner. We're in a business jet, an Embraer jet. And this is normal view looking right out the window in this picture. And my friend, who's also an engineer, he looked at it. He's like, yeah, that thing seems like it's only about this thing wasn't maybe 30 feet across and about 1,000 feet from us off the right wing. And it followed us, like I said, for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then it just disappeared.
Yeah, and I'd like to remind people, you are also a pilot, right?
Yes.
You have some time
Yep.
flying, so
in the
you're
air.
familiar
Yes.
with what you see up there. Something like this is certainly out of the ordinary.
If I saw this off my right wingtip and I was flying the jet, I'd be reporting it to the ground, to a ground controller.
That's a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
Pilots
Yeah,
reporting.
no, it is. It is. Yeah.
We're running a little bit short on time, and I still got a few things I'd like to get through with with the other guests. But
well, I will stop sharing then. Is that okay?
Yeah. If you have you gotten to the photos that you wanted to share?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Great. So those are some fascinating, fabulous photos. Thank you for sharing those.
Yep. Thank you.
So do you, one last question for you, Bill, and then we could throw it over to Wayne because it's related to what he does. Mm-hmm. Do you send a lot of your stuff over to him for like a second opinion?
I have done that. Yes. Mm-hmm. He's going to come back with some pretty interesting results. He has some software I don't have that can enlarge and get rid of a lot of the pixelation. He has that software. And so, yeah, he and I have shared images before.
Very cool. So, Wayne, I'd like to throw it over to you now. Did you have some photos that you wanted to share as well? Or was it a video?
Well, I have both, really. Here's a video that I took. It's actually using that same technique. Are you seeing it?
Let's see.
I'm not. Here it comes.
There we go. Yep.
Okay, now you're going to see this is using the same technique Bill was talking about. I was shooting against a tiny, tiny piece of the sun blocked out by the roof on my house. And you'll see a whole bunch of things go by.
Mm-hmm.
Now you see why we call them fast movers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are strange. the analytical part of my brain is saying that's got to be a bug or a bird or, but you've already ran this through your filters, your software analysis program, right?
Yeah.
What is your conclusion?
Well, if that was a bird or an insect, let's say, an insect has a head, a thorax, and an abdomen. It has usually around 4 wings, 6 legs, and antenna, etc. And that thing that was flying across there, the bigger one, has none of that. It just looks like a craft that's got some kind of a wing that's in the process of folding up.
Can you stop that video so that we can see it?
That's a good idea. If you could pause it right on that frame.
Or slow it down.
Better yet, do you see this?
No.
Oh, it went away.
Okay, let me share again. And okay, why is it not coming up?
Do you have to share it on your end, Andrew?
No, let me.
Okay, here we go. You see that?
Yep. Now it's coming
Okay.
up. Okay.
So
There we go.
this is literally went through in 3 frames. Here it's fully extended. Here it's starting to pull back. Here it's the smallest yet, and it went across like that. Now, this is just one piece. There's no 3 segments. It's not any kind of an insect. So it flew through in 3/60ths of a second.
Yeah, that's pretty clear too.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what the speed was?
No, I didn't have. You have to be able to have an idea of elevation or distance or angle of observation to be able to use the formula.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't have any of that. It was because I was so focused on what I was shooting, and it was on telephoto, so I really didn't have a frame of reference to be able to. I could have guessed at the angle, but you need to either have the elevation or the distance to the object to be able then to do some calculation.
Yeah.
Here's some others that I took using that technique. Here's an image where something just plunged and came down real fast, and I'm pointing out with the arrows where it was. And it was going about between 1,600 and 1,700 miles an hour when it did that. Here's one where it comes here and shoots up like that. And you can see how they're kind of small. Another one just shooting up.
Is this the same technique that Bill uses with
No.
the
This is
polarized
just-
lens?
No, this is just regular videos
Okay.
taken in the area around the lake. You see how it just changes and then shoots up. And here's what it looks like. Another one shoots and goes down like that. I was taking some images one night. Jupiter and Venus back in 2015 were real close to each other. And I was using a technique I wanted to try of backing off the focus to make, because even when you have a 300 millimeter zoom lens on your DSLR camera, all you get is just a little dot. So I backed off the focus a little bit, and so the dot increases. And I just happened to capture something interesting. I caught right here, then again here. This is frame 27, frame 36, 39, 25, shooting pie, Venus. And I just happened to, I didn't see it when I was filming. I had no idea. It wasn't until I looked at it later that I caught these fast movers. And this is one of the strangest shapes. It's kind of like a corkscrew.
Yeah, I can't quite make out what that is. That's strange.
Can you zoom in on that, Wayne?
It'll probably get more pixelated if you do, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But
okay.
it's in the book. It's in the book.
Okay.
Now, you see this one?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is a case I was asked to evaluate the video, and what the person that reported it to MUFON, he didn't see any wings because what he was looking at was this thing, and so he thought that was a UFO. Well, it's actually a plane. But as I was looking through the video, I caught a whole bunch of fast movers, and here's one, and I just merged a couple frames, frame 427 and 501, and it moved through here in 0.16 seconds. And here's what it looks like. And here's another one. It's kind of rod-like. And another one shooting up, etc. And these just really going fast. And this one makes some turns. And in one of the frames, there was a secondary object that appeared right here. But here's what this one here looked like. And I calculated going about 14,000 miles an hour. Now this one happens to go right through the contrail. And here it is.
Okay, I'm not sure if you're changing frames, or are we looking at four different images on the screen. Excuse me. Are you referencing each of the separate images that are on here?
Do you see my mouse?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, the top one here that's got the light, and you see here.
There's four images on screen, and they're across horizontally.
Huh. All I'm seeing is one thing. I wonder. I'm not seeing what you're seeing. I guess because I'm looking at.
Is it possible you're looking at a different application?
Well, I'm in Word now.
Yeah,
that's why we're not seeing it. You have to disconnect from the presentation and go into Word.
Yeah.
And click on that.
Thanks,
okay.
Margie.
Well, I'm in Word. Let me stop sharing. And stop that one. Wait for it to pop up here. Are you seeing anything?
It's not sharing it yet.
Oh, wait a minute. There it went. Well, for some reason it's slow to come up in the application window. Well, gosh, I hope it shows up here. Come on, come on.
So I just got the notice that you were sharing your screen, but it's not coming up on my end to share it.
Okay, there it finally showed up. There we go.
Yep. Let's see.
Seeing that
There
now?
we go. Yes.
Okay. Here's what I'd been showing you.
There we go. Okay.
So this one item going down. Here's the contrail and etc.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what the object looked like. And I don't know how big it is. Here's another one that's rod-like that was shooting through. And then this one was kind of blob-like, faint, but it shot through in just 0.2 of a second. Another one shooting down real fast in 0.17 of a second. Now here's the one where it goes to the contrail. So it comes and changes, and then changes to another angle. I calculated it's going at 14,000 miles an hour over. And then show it. Now here's what it looks like, right? Here's all you can see of it in the contrail. 2/3 of it's being hidden because it's being hidden by the contrail. Well, contrails are about 26,000 feet. And so that gave me an altitude. And I knew what the angle was, and so I could calculate the distance away and its size and the speed it was going through. And then while I was analyzing the image, I started seeing it. You won't be able to see it, but I've got all these arrows where I was seeing disturbed air. And when I put these arrows all together, I could see, oh my gosh, there's a definite shape here. And here's what it looks like. This was a giant craft of some kind. Now I inverted the points, the little dots that I was seeing here, and so that's why the contrail is black here. But there was this giant craft that was just parked there, and actually it moved down too. Here's another one. It's kind of a blob shape that went through in just one frame. And here's a little enhancement of it. And another blob.
Yeah, can I say something?
Sure.
It looks a lot like what I saw out of the flying off our right wing. Looked exactly like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is just one case where I analyzed and saw a whole bunch of fast movers. I found 10 fast movers in that video.
Yeah, I might mention that was one of my cases that I asked Wayne to help me with. And visiting the site and going through the video frame by frame, I can tell you that there are hours of time in these cases. It's not something that you can just find very quickly. You've got to spend the time because you have to look at everything frame by frame. And if you've got something that's 30 frames a second or 60 frames a second in a video. So we ask people to take short videos. But also, if you're seeing a UFO, any UFO, you want to keep the video on the whole time.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. And a lot of people who do study videos get really frustrated when they see a video where the person is recording it and whatever the object in the video is, is still in the video and the person walks away and stops recording. That's one of the most frustrating things for investigators to have to deal with. Because wait until the object moves away before you stop the video.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this one I was going through the contrail was over 14,000 miles an hour. That's going pretty quick.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, fascinating cases. One question I have for both of you guys, because of the amount of footage and images that you guys have shot. There is a organization called the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies. You guys familiar with this?
I just discovered them about a month ago.
They do accept submissions, and I was wondering if you guys have considered, or if you're willing to submit your studies for a peer review through them.
I thought about writing a white paper, because they call them white papers, and there's two ways to do it. So I was thinking I might join and do that.
Yeah, I think that would be. I mean, they're doing a lot of great work. They've investigated a couple of things, submitted them for peer review. The one that's most striking in my mind is the Aguadilla case. Are you guys familiar with this case?
I think so.
No.
It's on their website. If you go to, I think it's called explorescu.org.
Okay.
And just look up the Aguadilla UFO case. It's a phenomenal video of a craft going in and out of the water, and then it splits into two.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an amazing piece of footage. But they've done other investigations, and these are people that, that's just what they do. They're retired from their academia positions, and now they're just dedicated to researching and investigating these reports.
What I would love to do is invite one of them to come to my house, or I'll travel wherever they are, because I've done this everywhere in the United States that I've traveled on business. So I know it's universal. I can do it anywhere as long as I got some sunlight, and go through my methods that I go through that we outline in the book. But I've actually had neighbors, I've had engineers and other people stand there right with me, and I describe what I'm going to do and what we do, set up the camera, and within seconds, then they're seeing it. And then actually after that happens, then even more shows up. Wow. It's strange, because then all of a sudden they connect with it. So yeah, I would actually invite to meet up with any of these. I've been on their website, but I haven't quite figured out how to establish a line of communication yet. So yeah, I would be interested in doing that in the next year.
Well, I know it's 3 hours later in your part of the country, and I wanted to keep this at about 90 minutes. So we're closing in on that time really quick. Is there anything, like, I'll do real quick, I'll do each of you, give you an opportunity, final thoughts, and then I'll give you guys a chance to talk about how people can learn more about your work, and get in contact with you if they're interested. So Margie, final thoughts?
Well, this is an ongoing study for us and for other people who hear about it and get involved, and we want to hear and see their video. If they want to contact one of us, people can go to unxmedia.com to see more info on the book, and then how to contact us, each of us. So you can pick and choose, but we want to see other people's video as well, and analyze it. And since this is an ongoing thing, in January, I got some more information about the high-speed UFOs, and I was remote viewing the Tic Tac incident that the Navy showed video on, and it's gone public. And I asked the question, how is it possible for this craft to move so fast? Because any living being inside of it, if it was a human being, would be crushed to death, would be killed. And the answer was, this telepathic message came in that they are fifth dimensional and they are moving in fifth dimension. And in their dimension, that speed is much lower to them. So it feels like a normal speed to them, while us being in third dimension, observing this, it seems very, very fast to us. So that I've spoken to several people about this who think that I'm onto something with that, because it makes sense. It just makes sense that things move faster in the higher dimensions. And one of the things I talk about in the book is the hummingbird effect. A hummingbird moves so fast you cannot see its wings, and you can barely see the bird because it's moving so fast. If you think about that, compare that to, and think about that bird being in a little bit higher dimension than we are, so that we're just barely able to see it. But in its world, it's moving at a normal speed. It doesn't seem fast to that creature.
True.
And I think it's the same thing with the UFOs.
Great. Bill, final thoughts?
My final thought is that I've coined a new expression. It's called "they are here," and some people have had bad experiences, and I've had a few but I've actually have had really good experiences. And every time I put out a question, I usually get an answer. It may not be in the next 30 days, but usually within the 60 to 90 days, I'll get the answer I'm looking for, and the craft will show up, and I just know when to go out there and my precognition. And if anyone is willing to do this, and I've actually taught quite a few people, and they've all got the results, and I've seen their videos, and then usually they're even with larger groups of people. They go out and recruit other people, and then they all are sharing this experience. And that's what I want to leave with people, because it isn't just me or us. We're just sharing this and getting this information out, and it will change your whole perspective about what life is, because it opens it up. We're just in this little box, and there's a lot more out there, and they are here.
I am 100% in agreement with you on that. There's no doubt in my mind. I am not an experiencer. I've never seen a craft, other than photos and videos that everybody sees. But I'm a believer. I'm very confident that what people are seeing is actually something that is unexplainable. It's not human-made. It's something that we have not been able to explain, and there's still a lot more to learn. Wayne, final thoughts?
Yeah, two quick ones. Basically, if you want to get started, go to a body of water like a lake, and go get back far enough, and then it helps to have a zoom lens and a tripod, and then just take 15, 20 seconds of video, and then find a video player program where you can stop it frame by frame, and you'll be amazed. The second is, you had a question that you wanted to ask me, and I can give you a real quick answer.
Yeah, the implications on religion that these things are real and they're here.
Yeah, I was concerned about that myself. 2 years ago, within MUFON and among field investigators, we were asked, those of us who wanted to answer or to try to find answers and write papers on one of 25 great questions that have to do with UFOs and extraterrestrials. One of them that I chose to join that group and write a paper on is called "How Would Undeniable Recognition of Extraterrestrials Affect Christianity, Judaism, and Islam?" And the basic answer is, after I did all my research, that there's a fair amount that is already built into religion that we don't. It's how you look at it. That's already built into accepting extraterrestrials. And most religions have the ability to make modifications. They have over the hundreds and thousands of years. And this will be the next new frontier for religion at some time when we really have undeniable recognition made public.
So it's not going to, like many people have feared, totally disrupt religion. It's more of a process of religions adapting to this new information, embracing it rather than trying to deny it anymore.
There will be some groups that will have difficulty, but the main big groups that I listed, especially Catholicism, Judaism, Islam, already have within their bodies of scripture examples of where religious teachers have talked about persons in other places.
Right. One other quick question. I know we're short on time, but this is one that's quite relevant and timely. But what are your thoughts on the allegations that certain members within government, whether it's Congress, DOD, that are very strongly, in their beliefs, they're very stern in their beliefs, very rigorous in their beliefs, trying to disrupt or interfere with the official study of the phenomena. Have you heard anything about this?
Who are you asking? All of us?
Oh no, I'm asking you in particular, Wayne.
Well, it's Margie can probably really talk about it, but I've had interesting occurrences take place after I went public in one of our meetings about a certain topic. Within the next day, my Google Earth account had been changed, and my basic image that I'd been showing them got completely changed. Now, nobody else's basic image changed, but mine was. And
so the thing that I was more focused on, I'm trying to formulate this question as I'm talking, but there are, like, for example, Lou Elizondo, when he was the head of ATIP, he said that there were members of Congress and his superiors in the DOD that would prevent him from further studying of these UFOs. And the reasons that they were doing this is because they believed that these objects were, in some cases, demons. Anybody who would like to comment on that, just quickly.
I have heard of that because I followed that story, and actually he said this, I believe, and there were people in the Pentagon that were thinking that way. I have had, in my own personal beliefs, when I was first kind of going public with this and storing my data, I've had 2 computer hard drives completely wiped with electromagnetic impulses. Okay? Nothing else that can explain what we saw when I took it to my friend who works on computers, and the board and the hard drive is completely gone. And if I hadn't had it backed up to CDs and DVDs, which are holographic images, basically, the way the process works, I wouldn't have anything in the beginning. Some of my early videos and everything, even my SD cards were wiped in my cameras. That's how bad it got. Then that's when I started waking up. I put out a question to these beings before I went to sleep one night, and they kind of told me, well, we'll look out for you, and you'll know what to do the next time. And I did, after a few more times I had the same kind of thing happen. And then actually my car, on my way to go talk to my parents, I'll never forget, it was raining. It was on Good Friday, and I had the day off, and I was going to tell my mom and dad and bring my laptop, and my car horn started going on and off, and all the lights and everything else, the windshield wipers acting crazy. And I stopped on the side of the road, did a meditation, and then it all stopped immediately. But when I took it to Ford Motor Company, half of the main alternator wire from the alternator to the main bus was completely like it got hit by a bolt of lightning. And they didn't know what to think of it. Their service manager and something from a higher up or some beings or something. And also my emails were messed with, a lot of them, that I would communicate with people, especially as I started to communicate with Dr. Rudy Shield. Okay. So things like that would happen. I would get the message or I wouldn't get his email back. It was very strange. And this was in 2010 when all of that happened. So yes, some things have happened. I don't know whether it was man-made or from above. Something else negative didn't want me to talk about it. And I pushed through that a little bit. And I was told, well, hang in there and you'll know what to do. And obviously I've in my presentation that I go into that I'll do this summer, I actually have stills and a description of what I did. And I basically remote viewed and took on an individual. That's what I'm going to call it. It was an individual. I took it on. And after that, I've never been messed with. Completely left alone. I can see, take pictures, and they come and present themselves.
Margie, any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Let's just to sum it up, there are some government agencies and individuals who want this to be made public, and there were some who don't. So they're actually in conflict with each other over this, and they act independently. So, I've run the gamut finding myself being surveilled. All of my lines are tapped. I know that constantly. We've actually caught them red-handed several times, setting up taps at my Comcast pole out here. My business lines, everything. They actually follow me on cases. If there's a big case involved and it's something that is real, that was a real event, they will show up. They'll be there following in their vehicles and certain types of vehicles. All of us involved in the UFO community that do investigations know this. It happens to every single one of us. But also, and I have been personally attacked by an energy beam weapon by an individual who infiltrated MUFON and hit me with that weapon. But I had been a little bit prepared for it ahead of time, and I knew what to do to push that energy back. And there are benevolent extraterrestrials and other interdimensional beings. If you ask them for assistance, they will give it, and they will watch out for you and guard you, just like Bill said. So my advice to anybody out there that's dealing in this type of work, or you're investigating and you've had, a big sighting yourself, or you're an investigator, ask these benevolent extraterrestrials for assistance, and they will protect you.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. The only thing that I would like to say in closing is I wish we had more time to spend with you guys. It's been a fascinating conversation. Now, I put your link to your website up there, unxmedia.com, where people can learn more about each of you, your work that's ongoing, and how to contact you. Did you want to give your personal social media out for people to contact you on social media?
Well, we do have a Facebook group called The Fast Movers that anybody's welcome to join, and they can contact us through there. Yep. And also through the website.
Yep.
Excellent. All right. Well,
I keep up with the Facebook, and it is a good group if you're in Facebook to go to.
Yeah, and we encourage people to share their videos on there too.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, I will look forward to hearing more about your engagement with the SCU,
Yep.
Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies. Bill, I
Yep.
guess I should say who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
I hope
No,
to hear more about that.
Yeah.
Well-
I just have to go look them up, find out who to send it to. So
Yeah, their website is there. You submit your membership request, and it usually gets accepted within a day or two.
Okay.
And they're looking for people with credentials, people that have worked in a scientific background or academia that have a degree. I mean, they want qualified people, and I'm sure that you would meet that criteria easily.
Okay.
But
That's your new assignment, Bill.
there you go. I was looking for something to do.
Yeah, but you were.
Well, it's just interesting. I found it about 30 days ago on their Facebook site, and had been investigating that, but trying to figure out how I would make a proposal to them. How do I go about doing that and making it, to meet all of their criteria. But I've been working on it.
Great. Well, I just want to say thank you all for your time, for sharing your experiences and your knowledge with us. And, you're all welcome to come back on at a future date if you want to give an update for the work that you've been doing. And Margie, you and I have a meeting next Monday, same time, same channel.
Okay, I'll be here.
I'm looking forward to that. And that's going to be a whole different conversation because you're involved in so many different areas of interest that I have. I'm really looking forward to that conversation. But again, guys, thanks again for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Best of luck in your future endeavors.
Yep.
All right.